So, Romance of the Three Kingdoms 13 has finally released its new massive update DLC that reworks nearly every aspect of the game, following in line with the rest of Koei's games over the years. Now, if you're a fan of their strategy games like Nobunaga's Ambition or Romance of the Three Kingdoms, you'll know these expansion packs as the PUKs, or power-up kits. But this time around, here in the West, this expansion has been dubbed the Fame and Strategy expansion. Now, for anyone who's unfamiliar with this series, Romance of the Three Kingdoms is a historical strategy sim based off the Three Kingdoms era of ancient China. In Romance of the Three Kingdoms 13, you play as a Chinese warrior, and it's your job to conquer China and bring an end to the Age of Chaos. You'll have the ability to play as either famous heroes of the time or create your own character, which I highly recommend doing because I like to self-insert like a loser. And depending on who you choose, it'll determine your place in society. Now, as you start up the game, you'll notice that fantastic edit button. That's because with the release of the Fame and Strategy expansion, there is now an event creator which allows the player to create and edit their own events to transform the world of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms to fit their vision. Now, for example, one of the many new characters that was added with the expansion is Dong Bai, the daughter of the despicable tyrant Deng Zhuo, and I find her to be absolutely adorable, and I personally didn't want to see her die in 192 along with the rest of her family. Spoiler alert. So instead, I created an event that allows Dong Bai to join up with me instead of dying. Crafting your own events like this is actually a lot of fun, and once you play through a couple scenarios and get to know the setting, it's a lot of fun to change things around. Along with the event editor, you also have the ability to create strategies, items, and of course, characters. Each of these options allows the player a ridiculous amount of creative freedom, and while not available on the console, you can even upload custom images on PC for your characters. You can even edit historical characters, though to a lesser degree, mostly just lifespans, pictures, and a couple stats. When you actually get to the gameplay of Romance of the Three Kingdoms 13, it's split into two modes: Hero and Main. Hero is pretty much an in-depth tutorial mode that exists to teach the player about the features of the game. I highly recommend checking out Hero mode first before you dive into Main, not just because it's a tutorial, but because it's also an easy way to learn about the more important characters and events of the time. Once you finish up with Hero mode, you can move on to the Main mode, which allows you to choose from several different scenarios. You can add your own original characters or even create your own military force, and as I said earlier, depending on who you choose, it'll determine your position at the beginning of the scenario. From here, you'll have several dozen hours of gameplay to experience. This is also obviously where you'll experience most of the changes that the expansion has to offer, because this is not just a simple expansion that adds new features, but also completely reworks every part of the game as well. So for example, let's start up a scenario with our created character from earlier to show off a bit of the game. So here we can see Gao Zhen, and they are positioned in Guanling, and now they have an objective given to them by their ruler. While there are a handful of categories here to choose from, the primary two that you'll be using are domestic, which is split into culture, farming, and commerce, all which raise the prosperity of your city, and the other category you'll be using a lot is military, which is split into training, patrol, and deploy. Now training and deploy, those are self-evident, so let's just skip right to patrol. Patrol is used to raise the fealty or population of your city, so we'll raise the fealty like so. Now before we start, let's check out the several options to choose from. From here you can change your setup or even ask other officers to help you, which allows you to raise your rapport with them. After you patrol, you'll find bandits and you can fight them in the new and improved duel system, which has been rebuilt to make it more difficult. This is pretty much the extent of the gameplay outside of combat. You'll work to build up cities, regions, and if you make it, entire empires. You'll build up friendships and relationships with your favorite historical officers, and I have to say right now, because it might not be self-evident for some of you, this is a game for people who are fans of the setting, fans of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms books, the stories, Dynasty Warriors, all of that. If you're not a fan of the setting, there's nothing for you here. I, for one, love this stuff though. With this new expansion, Romance of the Three Kingdoms 13 has even added a new fame system, and with fame, your exploits will now earn the interest of other officers around China. This is now coupled with a new prestige system as well. See here, there are several different types of prestige categories for you to choose from, and each of them has multiple levels to unlock as you accomplish the required objectives. And as you level up your prestiges and equip new titles, you'll unlock stat boost and new abilities. The best part is that there is honestly a prestige for any occasion or playstyle, so experiment. Now the last piece of the game to talk about obviously is combat. Now combat can be fought in two ways. Battles can either auto-resolve themselves on the overworld map, or you can take part in the battles yourself. Now usually I would allow battles to auto-resolve themselves if my army vastly outnumbered my enemies. But if our numbers were even remotely comparable, I'd have to go in and fight the battle manually to minimize my casualties and maximize my ability to win. When you go to fight a battle manually, you'll now start with a war council, where the highest ranking officer will select an officer to devise a strategy for the upcoming fight. These fights will now take place on larger maps compared to the cramped maps from the vanilla game, about 4 times bigger on average. The strategy that you devise in the War Council will also determine the combat bonuses that are on the map, which is also a new feature. As you take control of these points, you'll gain the bonuses that they provide as long as you stand within the AoE aura. Combat will end when all troops of one army are defeated or if the main camp of your opponent falls. As the player, if your personal unit is also defeated, you'll be removed from the battle and it will automatically resolve itself. The last thing I want to mention is that they've added a new troop morale system to the overworld, and it will tick down the longer you march, and you'll need to replenish it at your cities and fortifications. Now, while I fully understand why they added this feature, I hate it. I think it's the worst part of the game now, and I can't stand even thinking about it. It's making me mad just talking about it. When it's going to take me 5 months to march my troops across China to go and fight the enemy, I really am not appreciating the fact that I have to stop for extra months just to recover, just so my army isn't completely decimated when we get there. Again, fully understand why it was added, simply do not like it. That said, Romance of the Three Kingdoms 13 is a well-made, well-polished strategy game for fans of Chinese history or even just Dynasty Warriors. The combat is fun, ranking up is fulfilling, and learning about the Three Kingdoms era is great. That's why I'm happy to say that I give Romance of the Three Kingdoms 13's Fame and Strategy expansion a 9 out of 10. Romance of the Three Kingdoms 13 is now available on the PlayStation 4, PC, and with the release of the Fame and Strategy expansion on the Xbox One. My name is Tyler Valle. You guys can follow me here. Make sure you guys follow TechRaptor here, and you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.